Welcome back to Upgrade Your Life. Today, we're diving deep into the world of economics to demystify a topic that affects us all: inflation. Have you ever wondered why prices seem to rise year after year, or why a dollar today doesn't go as far as it used to? Before we dive in, if you enjoy our content and find it valuable, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more updates and insights. Now, let's get started. Today's topic on Upgrade Your Life is inflation, a phenomenon where prices of goods and services increase over time, diminishing the purchasing power of money. Inflation results from factors like demand pull, when demand surpasses supply, leading to price increases; cost push, prices rise due to increased production costs; built-in, continuous expectations of inflation led to increased wages and consequently, higher prices. Inflation is measured using Consumer Price Index, reflects price changes in a diverse range of goods and is utilized for Social Security benefit adjustments. CPI, minus food and energy. This measurement omits fluctuating food and energy prices. Personal consumption expenditures, used by the Federal Reserve since 2000, it gauges consumer spending. Unchecked inflation can negatively impact the economy, especially if wages don't rise correspondingly, making essentials unattainable for many. Having delved into the intricacies of inflation and its root causes, let's pivot to examine the 10 nations grappling with the most staggering inflation figures in 2023. Venezuela, 1,198%. Venezuela's economic crisis, characterized by extreme hyperinflation, stemmed from both internal mismanagement and external factors. The country's heavy dependence on oil, which constituted over 90% of its export earnings, made it susceptible to global oil price drops. Nicolas Maduro, who took power in 2013, exacerbated the situation by printing more money and introducing currency controls, leading to further devaluation of the bolivar and the rise of a currency black market. These decisions, combined with industry nationalizations, price controls, and increasing political authoritarianism, disrupted supply chains and deterred foreign investment. By 2018, inflation hit 80,000%, prompting 3 million Venezuelans to emigrate. While some stability signs emerged by 2021, the long-term impacts of the crisis remained, highlighting the dangers of economic mismanagement and over-reliance on one commodity. By December 2021, there were some indications that Venezuela was starting to stabilize from its hyperinflation phase. However, the long-term damage to the nation's socio-economic fabric persisted. The Venezuelan crisis serves as a profound lesson on the catastrophic consequences of economic mismanagement, over-reliance on a single commodity, and political instability. Sudan, 340%. Sudan is grappling with escalating inflation, risking a slide into hyperinflation if budget and money supply concerns aren't addressed. This economic strain threatens the ongoing military-civilian power-sharing transition and intensifies the financial burden on the Sudanese populace. A significant factor behind the economic woes is the government's substantial budget deficits, mostly attributed to fuel subsidies. These deficits have prompted increased money printing, leading to currency devaluation. Consumers are spending their incomes quickly due to rising costs, especially on goods that maintain value. U.S. sanctions, the legacy of mismanagement under President Omar al-Bashir, and the pandemic have further weakened Sudan's GDP. The country's decision to seek the International Monetary Fund's assistance aims to introduce reforms and target debt relief. Fuel subsidies, a primary concern, remain a challenge to the nation's fiscal health. Even with some subsidy reforms, the weakened currency and mounting fuel costs are a continuous strain on the public. Lebanon, 201%. Lebanon defaulted on significant Eurobond payments in March 2020, leading to a collapse in its economic structure and resulting in rising costs for essential services. The World Bank describes Lebanon's economic crisis as one of the most severe in recent history, emphasizing the need for broad reforms and new governance. Prices of basic commodities in Lebanon, such as eggs and bananas, have soared over the past 3 years. By March, Lebanon faced an extreme inflation rate, with the IMF warning of potential hyperinflation. The economic downturn, starting in 2019, was fueled by political corruption, heavy public debt, and inadequate financial management. External events, including disruptions due to COVID and the Ukraine war, further aggravated the situation, especially given Lebanon's reliance on grain imports from Ukraine and Russia. The Lebanese currency also saw a sharp decline since 2019, drastically cutting average incomes. Other countries, including Syria, Iran, Turkey, and Egypt, are also experiencing economic strain from inflation. Christian partner organizations are aiding affected individuals in Lebanon by offering essentials and promoting sustainable solutions, with support from the Australian government. Syria, 139.0%. Syria is facing its most severe economic crisis since the civil war began, marked by soaring inflation, a plummeting currency, and fuel shortages. Damascus residents grapple with limited electricity and rising food costs, causing protests that sometimes turn violent. The Syrian pound has reached a record low on the black market. Many Syrians now depend on remittances, multiple jobs, or aid. The crisis has been intensified by factors like Syria's long-standing war, sanctions, corruption, Lebanon's economic collapse, global downturns from COVID-19 and the Ukraine war, and decreased oil from Iran. Additionally, in regions like Idlib, economic hardships are compounded by issues in neighboring Turkey and potential aid disruptions. Though unrest grows, a large-scale uprising similar to 2011 is deemed unlikely as the population focuses on survival, supported by overseas remittances. Suriname, 63.3%. Inflation in Suriname is escalating due to various interconnected reasons. Devaluation of the Suriname dollar. The currency experienced a massive devaluation, about 90%, causing a rise in import costs and overall prices. Dwindling foreign currency reserves. With limited reserves, Suriname struggles to stabilize its currency and meet foreign responsibilities. This leads to even more depreciation and inflation. Foreign currency shortage. A scarcity of foreign currency means businesses dependent on imports face elevated costs. Consequently, consumers witness higher prices. Elevated national debt. Suriname's debt, amounting to 145.1% of its GDP, generates doubts about its capacity to manage its obligations. If addressed by printing more currency, this can amplify inflation. Global commodity price fluctuations. Any change in global commodity prices can sway Suriname's balance of payments, reserves, and its inflation trajectory. Structural and policy challenges. Issues such as the country's lack of economic diversification and certain policy choices are also instrumental in its rising inflation. Zimbabwe, 60.7%. Hyperinflation in Zimbabwe resulted from policy errors and economic mismanagement during President Robert Mugabe's tenure. Key causes included disruptive land reforms affecting food production and price. International sanctions weaken the banking system. A banking crisis exacerbated by elite corruption and political instability led to high unemployment. Excessive money printing to fund military endeavors and food imports exacerbates inflation. The government's lack of transparency and extreme measures like massive denomination notes. Development of a black market for foreign currencies, with government officials involved. Zimbabwe's switch to foreign currencies post-2008, halting Zimbabwean dollar printing in 2009, and reintroducing a new currency in 2019 led to renewed hyperinflation. These events echoed past situations like Germany's Weimar Republic, highlighting the dangers of unchecked money printing. Zimbabwe's monetary growth has often outpaced its economic output, resulting in high inflation and leading to strikes from public sector workers seeking wage adjustments. Argentina, 51.2%. Argentina, a major player in Latin America's economy, is currently facing its most severe inflation in 30 years as it approaches the 2023 presidential election. Key issues include inflation. It is forecasted to average a staggering 147% by 2023. GDP, there's a projected decline of 3.03.5% in 2023, which contrasts sharply with the IMF's growth prediction of 0.2%. Currency complications. The Argentinian peso underwent a devaluation of over 100% in just a year, intensifying the inflationary pressure. Due to rampant inflation, multiple exchange rates have emerged. Most people have to deal with the elevated blue dollar rate, but there are up to 12 different rates available, influenced by variables like soybean exports and tourism. Agricultural issues. A significant drought has hurt the crucial agricultural sector, hampering dollar income. Financial hurdles. The central bank's dollar reserves are rapidly depleting. Economist Carlos Perez's recommendations to mitigate these challenges include negotiating a fresh agreement with the IMF, adopting fiscal policy changes, and allowing more depreciation of the peso. He also emphasizes addressing the substantial IMF debt and gearing up for a possible severe recession. Turkey, 36.1%. Turkey is facing an economic crisis due to President Erdogan's unconventional policies. Erdogan controversially claimed high interest rates cause inflation, leading to the dismissal of several central bankers. Deep interest rate cuts increased investment and consumption but fueled inflation. The middle class struggles with soaring living costs, and government remedies, such as wage hikes, are ineffective. While big businesses shield themselves with foreign assets, the less affluent face rising debt. The depreciating Turkish lira has inflated import costs, especially for energy. Attempts to stimulate exports through currency devaluation have been unsuccessful. Turkey's increasing external debt leans heavily on credit, especially from Russia. Western firms are wary of investing in Turkey due to Erdogan's policies and alliances. The current economic growth, driven by low interest rates, is expected to be temporary. The situation underscores the importance of independent central banks in maintaining economic stability. Erdogan's focus seems to be on short-term electoral benefits, but post-election adjustments could be severe. Turkey's entrepreneurial spirit remains robust, but the economic situation could impact the upcoming elections' results. Iran, 35.2%. Iran's high inflation results from both domestic and external factors, including sanctions that cause import shortages and decreased oil exports. These sanctions lead to currency devaluation and increased government deficits. To finance these deficits, Iran taps into its sovereign wealth fund and banks, causing money supply expansion, which further amplifies inflation. While Iran uses price controls to support its citizens, these measures often harm growth in the long run. Policy recommendations: decrease budget deficits and implement tighter monetary policies. Remove controls on energy prices, forex, and interest rates. End multiple currency practices and unify the exchange rate for transparency. Implement robust inflation targeting frameworks and enhance the central bank's operations. Diversify the economy, bolster the private sector, and improve the business landscape. In conclusion, while easing sanctions would help reduce inflation faster, fundamental economic reforms are essential regardless of the sanctions status. Ethiopia, 33%. Concluding the top 10 nations with elevated inflation, Ethiopia stands as Africa's second largest in terms of population. The country's soaring inflation is attributed to a fragile domestic market supply due to constraints in agricultural output and a consistent depreciation of its local currency. Inflation in Ethiopia is creating significant economic hardships for its citizens. Prices of essential items, including baby formula and staple foods, have risen due to an inflation rate exceeding 30%. The surge in living costs can be attributed to droughts, the aftermath of COVID-19, and a two-year conflict in the Tigray region. Despite government measures like lifting the value-added tax on essentials in 2021, families are still struggling because most importers access foreign currency from the black market due to foreign exchange shortages. While the Ethiopian economy had seen rapid growth over the past decade, it has recently cooled. The slowdown, combined with inflation and increased import costs, has impacted businesses and led to lifestyle changes for many, with families cutting down on meat, entertainment, and other non-essential expenses. Some families are reduced to eating once a day, and the conflict in Tigray has further exacerbated food shortages and price hikes. On a slightly positive note, the government has banned rent increases by landlords, providing slight relief to some. Wrapping up on inflation. Inflation is a typical phenomenon in worldwide economies, yet its intensity varies across countries. When the surge in inflation surpasses the rise in wages, it can trigger significant economic challenges. Those nations grappling with the highest inflation often face hurdles in securing essential commodities like food, energy, and attire. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content and found it valuable, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for more updates and insights. Sharing is caring, so feel free to share with friends and family. Your support means a lot to us. See you next time.